Been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
I'm Pete Peterson,
I'm Ahmed Eldawah.
And I'm Jake Glasser.
and this is
Another podcast.
Woo!
Oh, I was gonna. Do
You
one of
ruined
those.
it.
You didn't do it. You waited too long.
I was gonna go. Yeah. But then you did a.
Yeah.
Well, I waited half a second because I thought you were, but then you didn't.
Anyway.
and I did.
Today we're talking about Incredibles 2, the
Nice.
second one.
The second one,
Not the first one,
not the first one.
but the second one.
Yeah,
I mean,
the first one's better.
because there's a two after.
Would we
the
all
name.
agree that the first one's better, do you think?
I don't know. I'm like super fresh from watching this, because I literally just watched this today.
I really liked it.
I liked it a lot.
I liked a lot of it.
Are we going to
And-
do spoilers for this? How are we going to jump into it?
Yeah,
It's
friggin'
a-
spoilers. I don't think the people
It's
who are
on
gonna see it.
Netflix.
Yeah, the people who are gonna see it have already seen it, or like you know what I mean. Like
It's been a while.
it's been a
enough
while, and there's not a lot to spoil except the one thing, but you can kind of predict that. You know what I mean?
time. Yeah.
What, like the twist, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's like a twist. but
Twist,
Like,
It's honestly kind of similar to the way, not the twist itself, but just the way that it's paced out is similar to the first movie.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But instead
similar.
of Mr.Incredible, it's Elastigirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they swap roles.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Pretty much.
I haven't seen the first one in a really long time.
It's good.
It's
but,
alright.
Yeah,
I like it.
no,
a
I
lot.
mean, duh. It's
Yeah.
the best Pixar movie.
It
You're
is.
a bad person.
No,
I
I
need to stop.
love it. I love it a lot. I think
Okay.
it's definitely my favorite Pixar movie.
Statement retracted. You're a good person.
Yeah.
Actually, you're a bad person, but that's for other reasons.
Well, okay, so let's go through and talk about our. Do we want to talk about the first movie or?
We can mention it as we
yeah.
talk about the second
Yeah,
one.
and-
So
We're kind of
let's go
assuming
down the
that
line
that it's
as
been seen.
Is, saying.
Can I go first though? Because I want to start out.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what did you
Okay.
think about the movie?
So I just wanted to start out by saying, have you folks noticed Ahmed's brand new leather jacket? Look at how fancy schmancy it is. Pete, do a little. Yeah, there you go. A nice little gesture there. It's good. It's a good jacket. He's switching things up, and we're proud of our pal Ahmed, and he's a good guy.
Did you really need to bring attention to it?
Yeah,
I felt like that was unnecessary. You know.
So, are you proud of him for having a jacket? That
because
seems a bit condescending.
no, because he looks
Good
fly.
job,
He
dude.
looks very sleek.
Good job, Ahmed. You wore a jacket.
Well,
and
he's
it's not the same jacket.
He's
that
had
you
other
normally wear.
jackets. I'm just saying I really like this jacket.
No, I like the jacket.
I think
too.
it's a good look,
Yeah.
and I wanted to give you a compliment.
It is a good look. I like it, especially because it's very. What were we saying? It was like very 2000s. Like,
yeah, like a 2000 superhero.
Yeah. I took pictures.
I can kinda see
And when
that,
I say I
yeah.
took pictures, I mean I tried to take pictures, and then his girlfriend took over because she's a photographer and she hated the work I was doing.
Yeah.
And she took pictures of him, and he looks straight up like he's Superman, like Clark Kent from the
Smallville?
like the costume that he had.
Well, that's
He looks
also
straight
because
up
you have
like
the
that.
superhero jawline. It's not. it's different. You know.
Yeah.
Incredibles.
Literally, your girlfriend was just in here complimenting your facial structure
Incredibles.
before we started rolling.
Incredibles 2.
So, anyways,
My
Incredibles
opinion
2.
on Incredibles 2.
So Incredibles 2.
I was.
Yeah, go.
Okay,
Go,
Pete.
go ahead, do it.
Go ahead.
This is terrible. This is terrible content.
Yeah.
We're
It's
a
always
mess.
terrible
We're a mess
content.
right now. Yeah,
It's always a mess, Pete.
that's true. Okay, so Incredibles 2. I really liked it a lot, and I'll have to think about it whether I like it more than the original or not. But
What were you saying?
so Incredibles 2. It was really fun, and I liked seeing a lot more of Elastigirl and the kids doing stuff. I thought that was cool, and Mr. Incredible taking a backseat, but like also not kind of a backseat. And I like the arc. There are like a bunch of different arcs that happen in this. Like Mr. Incredible has an arc where it's like, you know, letting Elastigirl be her own person, and you know, spending more time with the family. Elastigirl, you know, kind of like relaxing a bit and not being so strict, and the kids, you know, getting like an opportunity to be heroes, but also Mr. Incredible not like putting being a hero on them. You know what I mean?
I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely agree with you.
Well, that's why.
What?
That's why I was saying it's very similar to the first movie, but yeah, like they kind
I
of
don't know.
switch roles. I mean, it's not exactly the same plot, but it is. There are some similar parts, but that's not even really bad because I think it's still an enjoyable ride.
Are you done? Or?
No, well, I was just throwing a comment in there. You
Yeah.
can go ahead.
Or okay, well, I was gonna say, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I like the movie. Generally speaking, I think it's a really fun movie. It's a fun ride from beginning to end. But I also think it's not that great a movie.
Explain.
So here's the thing. With a lot of it is what we were saying is that it's a lot of a repeat of like syndrome in that. And one of the things that I guess bothers me a lot is that a lot of the main thing in this movie is sort of the idea of getting heroes back into legality, getting them back in the spotlight, making them good again, make people think they're good again. But the problem with the movie is that in the first movie, the main villain is caused by the hero. And in the second movie, it's the exact same thing. The heroes kind of cause the issue in their own sort of way.
Pretty much.
And that kind of bothers me because, like, the heroes never really solve a problem that was already set out, like, that already existed, right? You could say, like, the Underminer, but they failed at that, right? Like, they failed at that the first time around pretty miserably. And the second time around, was there a second time around? I'm trying to remember if there... Or no, like, there wasn't a second time around. I'm trying to remember because I watched a video and I got confused. Did they fight the Underminer second time around, or am I like...
No.
No, they didn't.
I don't think so.
No, they didn't. I'm just really... I watched a video...
Maybe you're getting confused.
Wait, what video did you watch?
It was a video by... God, I can't remember the name. And I'm going to put the link in the description to the video, and I'm also going to flash it
by
screen.
Naruto Kid 966421
Shut up.
underscore
Also,
death
it is also
XX.
very likely that he just won't put it in the description.
Yeah,
I will
and I'm
so-
sorry to like jab at you because you are the one doing pretty much all the editing, so you don't really deserve any crap. But every like link that we've mentioned so far in these videos that we say we're gonna put in the description doesn't end up in the description.
I'm very bad at
Yeah,
remembering
that's why I'm not, getting on your case. I'm just saying if it's not in the description, we apologize.
Yeah.
I'm going
Well, like we're not mad at you because
Well, see,
you're-
but now
like,
we've emphasized that now it is going to get in the description because you've especially emphasized how
But
it's not
if it's
going to
not,
be.
if it's not, then you extra messed up. So
Yeah.
pressure's on.
then
Sorry.
then you can be mad at Ahmed
Can I get
because
back to
he's
the video?
gotten this extra.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
I have some counterpoints, but finish your.
Yes.
All right, so in the video that I was talking about, it sort of highlights these points and sort of talks about how if they fought the Underminer a second time and like won, that would prove something, but they don't, and that's why I got confused because they don't fight the Underminer a second time. They just kind of solve the problem with the screenslaver. They just sort of solve that problem, but that's a problem that was kind of caused by heroes in the first place. So they never actually solve a problem that they never caused before. They always solve the problems that they were already causing.
Can I interject real quick? So I want to say, I think in terms of like an overall character, Screenslaver is fine, but I am very certain that that character name showed up first, and then they wrote they wrote
Yeah.
the character around the name, which can be a little dicey. You don't usually
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
do that, but to me, that's definitely what it sounds like because the name is like a pun in a pun, and also a reference to how they attack
I don't
and
think it's a
mind
pun
control
in a pun.
people.
I think it's just a pun.
Yeah.
But anyway, I definitely agree. Now that I'm remembering more about the first movie, this is definitely not as good as the first movie. But two things. Well, actually, also I do agree, and I was thinking about this while watching the movie that like everything that they like did as a hero was just solving problems that they kind of caused. But I don't think that really hurt the movie as much as I think you're making it out to be. And what were some of your other points?
That was the main one that I was getting at.
Yeah, I just Oh, you said that it's a lot of rehashing, I think is what you said.
Well, I said that wasn't really me. That's not a thing that I am upset with. I don't really care if a movie like redoes like kind of not redoes, but like uses like a similar plot structure from a previous movie. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. I just pointing out that that was true. Like, it doesn't bother me necessarily. I might have said that it bothered me. If I
feel
did say
like-
that, then I was wrong.
I feel like it's maybe it's a little lazy, but I mean, I think overall it was still done well.
And I think that it was also pretty different and different enough, and it tells a different story.
Yeah.
And like the first one it focuses a lot on Mr. Incredible, and not until like the second or like the first act is like almost entirely Mr. Incredible, and then by like the second act the other three get involved, and by the third act it's like everybody working together. But this one I think balanced all of the characters throughout, and I loved the scenes where Mr. Incredible was at home like doing stuff. Those were
like
really
trying
some
to
of the coolest
babysit
ones.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those
yeah.
are some good scenes.
Yeah.
And okay, and every time Frozone used his ice powers, it just looked so cool.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I just
Frozone is
yeah.
the best
he
character.
is.
And not that the animation was bad in the first one, because it was actually pretty good, and I think it holds up pretty
Yeah,
well.
I agree,
But
yeah.
the animation in this one is really good.
I will say that after seeing like Spider-Verse, this animation doesn't feel as great to me.
I think it's hard to compare those two because
Yeah.
Spider-Verse has like its own unique style.
No, I know, and I'm not like griping on like this. It just the Pixar thing. I think because I've seen it so many times, it just kind of feels bland at this point.
a lot of
Yeah.
Disney and Pixar 3D animation looks very similar.
Yeah,
like
'cause-
you can tell what studio it's made by just by looking at it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they don't really they haven't changed anything up style wise
Yeah.
for this movie, and it's kind of not disappointing, but like
I think that's fine though, because they
Yeah,
were.
like
it's a sequel to an older movie that
Yeah.
already had an established art style. So why would they
Yeah.
change
and
it?
and like obviously like the textures are better and just like
Right.
it's rendered better.
Also, we got to see like actually other heroes in this movie, which was cool.
all right. Yeah.
One thing
Yeah.
that I really liked was the relationship. I think her name is Void, who's
Yes.
the like the younger hero who's a fan of Elastigirl, and like kind of that relationship. They only have a
barely a
few.
relationship.
Well, no,
Yeah.
they only have a few interactions, but I think it's cool just in terms of world building, and also because like even though we did see a couple heroes in the first movie, it was pretty much just the main cast of The Incredibles, and I think it's interesting to kind of see the other people with powers, and actually, it's not something they explain a ton or explore rather a ton in the movie, but the fact that like it almost works like celebrities where they inspire one another. I thought that was interesting, and I think they could have made the story a little more interesting. I think if they focused on that more, but
I don't know. I feel
not
like,
that it was bad.
I felt like that was weak, and specifically like going back to like style, I felt like those like the costumes for those characters were really
Bland.
ugly.
Yeah.
They were really ugly.
Yeah.
And the characters just seemed tacked on.
I don't
they
think-
can have like superpower.
I don't think
people to
any of
fight.
the costumes are terribly great. Like not that the character design is bad, but the
No.
costumes are generally simple, and maybe that's just because we're used to a lot of superhero movies
they're
now
kind of based off
with
of
more
like,
complex designs.
like earlier.
like
like-
early superhero, I guess,
Right.
because this is like a movie that takes place in like an alternate 1960s, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
say
yeah,
the first
yeah.
one especially has like the whole like orchestra soundtrack with a lot of trumpets and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the music is very.
Oh, yeah.
It's
What-
got a really
60s.
it's got a really like campy overtone. This one did too, but to a lesser extent. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the soundtrack, but no, but I mean, like in the first one, they had cool character designs. Like the original Mr. Incredible costume is like kind of cool.
It's pretty
Frozone's
Mhm.
costume's kind of cool, but I mean, like it's like really very like comic-y and like kind of campy.
Yeah.
But it just even
works.
Elastigirl's costume, it works and it's kind of cool. But these like newer costumes, like especially her like dyed hair, and it was just like kind of gross colors.
Yeah.
And
they weren't
Yeah,
the
there
best.
were like weird sort of choices in terms of like
Yeah.
using a lot of light green, which is just
Yeah.
very,
Strange.
very evocative of like vomit.
Yeah.
Don't use light green
And then-
excessively.
And then there was the guy,
in your
like the
character
big guy,
design.
who just kind of looked like Wreck-It Ralph.
He did look like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
And I think
that's
part of
true.
that is just because like animated characters who are really bulky tend
Yeah.
to have like the big fists that connect right down into like an arm stump. They don't really
Yeah.
have like separated joints. They
Yeah.
just have like
Yeah.
logs on their arms. And that's
Yeah.
again, that's just like a style thing. But he definitely looked similar to that.
All those characters were very in their character design, I think.
I don't think any of them were bad, but none of them really stood out.
Yeah, I wouldn't
No,
say
I
they
think
were
that they were
bad.
bad.
I don't think that they were bad.
And I think
was
that they're
fine
bad.
with it. That's fine. That's fair. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't think they're good. I think they were acceptable, but it's definitely underperforming for what I would expect from like Pixar.
Yeah.
Character design wise.
Yeah, and like we touched on the bad guy again, and just to bring that back, I agree the bad guy was really pretty weak, and especially the whole like you guys are always in your like on screens or whatever.
Yeah.
That was kind of stupid.
That part was stupid. I think the core motivation where like basically believing or relying on heroes got what their parents killed, right?
I don't have a problem with her.
Like that's not a bad motivation.
It's not a bad motivation, but it comes from a terrible place. Like the flashback.
Yeah.
Like the idea that like he had like these phones in his room for some reason, not in a panic room. Which
Yeah,
they
no,
had.
no, that's
They
just
they're
it's
like,
stupid.
Instead of going to the panic room, he called a phone. What?
Yeah, it was pretty stupid.
And then in the sort of video I'm talking about, it sort of talks about how instead of doing that, it really should have been like something like the father instead of like instead of going into the panic room with them, he's like sends them into the panic room and tries to stop or like protect them from like the robbers instead. Like he tries to protect them, like, and she gets pissed, and the video's like, and she would get pissed off because he tried to be a hero, and she'd be like against heroes because she doesn't like the idea of unpowered people trying to like do something really stupid, like stand up to bank robbers, or not bank robbers, but like, or in example, like doing things like that. And sort of the idea is that she would have a war perspective, but one that you could understand. And with this one, it's not that you don't understand it, but you watching it, anybody older than the age of like 10 will be like, this is a weird flashback that doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. So when this movie, because I saw this movie in theaters when it came out. I don't know about you guys,
I did not.
but I went with some friends and some family, and we went and saw it. And when it first came out, the scenes where Screenslaver activates like the hypnosis thing is very bright and glaring, and it's like this flashing strobe effect. I don't know, because I think they changed it for all the other releases. They made it a lot more relaxed. I don't know exactly how they changed it,
more relaxed.
but like the strobing was so bad. I don't know if it actually gave anyone seizures, but like even just barely glancing at it in the theater, I had to like squint because of how glaring it was. And there's these sections where like the flashing lights last for a whole fight sequence, which is like maybe close to a minute long, if not longer. And it's really unfortunate. And that happens like 2 or 3 times in the movie. So I think they removed that.
I think they definitely tweaked it a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say that fight scene, which I think is the one you're referring to, where she goes to like the Screenslaver's like hideout.
Yeah,
It's, like,
in
not actually-
in like the apartment
I
building.
thought that was one of the coolest scenes because
That was so awesome.
Yeah, in the theater, we couldn't tell what was happening
Yeah.
because the screen was so glaring and
Yeah.
flashing.
But and this is going to touch on a point that I want to make. When she goes in and sneaking around and like the kind of like tension that's building and it's kind of a mystery thing, I feel like I got a lot of that in the first one, like when Mr. Incredible is like sneaking around.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like figuring out like, oh, they're like killing all the supers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like it invoked that feeling, and I feel like I wish more of the movie was devoted to like figuring out who Screenslaver was, or like that, and like making it a stronger villain, obviously.
Yeah.
Because like that stuff was really cool. And then when the fight scene happened, I thought that was like a really well done, and I liked the lighting, especially when like, she's like in the room with like all the things and they bust out. It was just like really well done.
It's a cool fight
It's
scene.
awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I
Oh,
just
also,
really struggled.
I just wanted to say the fight scenes in this were way better than the ones in the first one. You have to admit that.
I do have to.
I think because the animation quality
obviously,
increased, and
probably
also
bigger
I
budget,
think
better
budget
animation.
and it did
just
have the
more
benefit
experienced
of
animators.
instead of fighting giant robots, they were fighting people, which
Yeah.
lends a lot more to like really cool like
Choreography stuff.
and
Yeah.
So like, and a lot of the fight scenes were really cool. I definitely enjoyed them, but I think, and that's the only reason they put in those extra superheroes. Like I think you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and
that's why I think the character design is so lame. They're just cannon fodder, basically.
one thing I do like about the new superheroes is I like their powers. I like the
Yeah, there's some
Yeah.
unique stuff
powers.
in there.
There is some cool stuff. Yeah.
It isn't just your staples like strength, flight.
One of those does have.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
whatever.
just a strength. He's just a brick.
Yeah.
But
Also, I want to say, I don't know if this is actually true or if I'm just kind of like piecing like stuff together that's not there, but I think it kind of alludes to, or at least you can make sense of like that Jack's powers kind of like he's like accessing some like alternate dimension thing, because like they say like when he zaps out, like he's in like another dimension thing, and it's not just like teleportation, like he zaps
Oh, that's true.
into another
Yeah.
dimension and is like floating around, and then
And you can
zaps
like
back
kind of
into this
hear
one.
his voice.
And so like
Yeah.
that would explain like all like the weird stuff that he can do. I mean, like obviously this is just
Yeah, I mean,
speculating.
that's possible. I hadn't.
don't know if I'm seeing.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered that. It's possible though.
I think that the other dimension thing might be not related.
no,
to
I know,
that.
and like I get that. I just think
I just assumed he had like fluctuating genetics or some weird sci-fi.
yeah, and they
explanation like
did
that.
say that like young supers often develop like multiple powers.
Yeah.
Because they have like young cells.
Yeah.
That's almost how like real cells work, just in terms of, you know, babies have a lot more like fresh cells and stem cells that can develop into any kind of specific cell. We shouldn't get into biology on the podcast,
Yeah.
but that's just.
It does make me wonder about how powers work. Like, is it fully genetic? Because now and the reason I'm thinking this is I was recently reading Worm, and now I'm thinking that in my
Oh.
head. Yeah.
I mean it's probably genetic.
It's probably just genetic, but I
That
would
tends
love
to
the
be
idea of,
like the
some
traditional answer.
form. It's
Yeah.
normally, yeah.
It's either genetic or it's powers simulated with a suit, kind of like in the first movie.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think this is just genetic, which is yeah. I do wonder if maybe I wonder about Jack because part of me is like they never really got a chance to fight like their parents, the kids, like, and that kind of
Oh, while they're
disappointed me.
under mind control.
Yeah, while they're under mind control.
Oh.
Like they never really got
Yeah.
the chance, and that kind of disappointed me because Jack just kind of immediately threw off the glasses.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like, eh.
That would have been a
I was
cool fight.
fine with that.
Well, yeah, but like it would have been a really good, fight scene if they had tried to do something like that, you
Yeah.
know. And I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get that. So that was kind of one of those things that.
That didn't really
Ripped
bother
me.
me, but
Yeah.
I can see how it might.
Do you ever? One thing that kind of also, and it's possible that when I think now I'm about to say it, I realize that I have an answer for the question I was about to ask. Is I was going to ask what's the purpose of? I want to say his name's Warren. That's how forgettable he is in the movie. The main
CEO guy?
Warren.
I think it's
yeah,
it's because he inherited the father's like wealth and fortune and the whatever company they have. I don't think the sister did, but
no,
he,
she
No,
did. They're like
kind
they're
of
like a team.
co-owners. Yeah.
And
I want to say he like somehow inherited it, or he's the one who runs it, and then she's basically using him as sort of as like the front, and then she can kind of work behind the scenes because if she was the head of the whole thing,
And
then more attention would be on
and
her.
it kind of like he's kind of like a foil to her because he kind of like took the opposite approach to like his father, like, oh, the supers could have saved him, and it kind of like adds to her motivation, like she's living with this guy who's she thinks is an idiot and is doing things for all the wrong reasons.
And I thought
I
that
guess.
was I think that was decently well developed.
It's just part of me feels like he doesn't do anything realistically like important to the movie.
I mean, he does supply Elastigirl with all of like her stuff.
No, but that's
Yeah.
also her.
Yeah, I know. They could have made that
like-
the one character.
like-
That's
but
true.
I like.
And I don't disagree. I think you guys are right. That's why I was saying like I had the answer to my question before I even asked it.
Right.
So like, but I still it bothers me that he didn't really do anything. Like I feel like because on some he never even really proved like the point that like the heroes were like not the issue because his father was absolutely kind of an idiot for like pulling the thing that
Yeah.
he did.
A little
so
bit.
like and
that brings you back to your other point of, that
yeah.
they just like
Yeah.
they don't solve any actual problem.
yeah.
But yeah, but I mean that didn't really bother me, and I feel like the Underminer is going to be a bad guy, and number tree.
Oh, you think we're gonna get a third one?
I don't believe they're gonna get a third one, honestly. Cause
What? They are definitely.
I
getting a
think
third
we
one.
might.
But it's made
after
money.
the first one, like the what's his name? Brad Barry?
Who are you talking about?
The director.
Oh, I don't remember what his name
but
is.
the director, he was saying that the only reason he'd ever do an Incredibles 2 is if he thought he had a story as good as the first one.
Oh, is that
And
right?
That's what he said, and that's
Oh.
why it took so long for an Incredibles 2 to ever come out, because he didn't think that he had one.
Oh,
And
I thought it was just because like, whatever budgeting, and also because animation takes forever.
No, he was very specific. He was like, I won't make an Incredibles 2 until I have a story that I believe is as good as the first
Yeah,
one. So I think that
but-
it's unlikely.
Well, I guess
that
I
we'll
guess
get, like, a third one.
I guess he stayed
But-
true to his word, because he was like, I'll only make another one if it's as good as the first one. So he used almost the same story in the second one, because he must have liked that story
brings
so
me
much.
again to the Underminer. I still don't understand what was the purpose of Underminer besides the sort of setting up the main issue.
It
I
was
think
setting
that's
up
pretty
the-
much
but
it.
That
I
was
mean-
it.
Okay,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
he-
like story-wise, I understand. But like within the movie, it's kind of because in the first movie where it ends, he's taking over the world. But in the second movie, they changed it and make it so that he's just robbing a bank and that's all he's doing. But then you're sitting there going like, why?
Why is he robbing a bank?
Yeah, like what's
Probably
because
he needs
Because he's a
money
cartoon
to
villain.
Yeah, he's a cartoon
What?
villain. And
But, like,
if you
that's-
if you really want to get into the logic of it, I guess it's because
Yeah,
he needs
yeah,
money
But
to take
no,
over the
but
world.
Here's what I was thinking when I was watching the movie. I thought that they were setting up for his return, and then they didn't. Because they were like, they made a point of like, oh, he broke into a bank, he stole a whole bunch of money, and then he got away.
Yeah,
he
but-
was
but
very
he-
specific how he got
like,
away,
yeah,
and then
he-
he didn't come back.
Like the point is that he got away, and like that they didn't catch him.
Right.
As in they didn't solve the
Yeah,
problem.
and
Yes,
they
but no,
basically they
I-
were given this chance to like put supers back in the spotlight, and they failed, so they had to fall back on this guy
Yeah,
who they had just
exactly.
met.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I understand that point, but it's like it felt like they were setting up for him to return, and then they didn't.
I think it's because that character was written at the end of the last movie, and then probably ideas sort of changed around and the script changed over time.
Yeah.
I imagine his role was probably going to be different initially, but there's such a gap in time between the first movie and this movie that things probably
I can see that, but also
changed.
like I'm fine with him just being like the catalyst. For,
Yeah,
like,
I
all
think
this.
I think he was all right.
I
mean,
and
most
I see where you're coming
most
from. but-
movies will have that character that's literally just a catalyst to sort of
Yeah. I
service
guess,
the
yeah.
plot.
I think, if anything, I think if the movie ended with him returning and then them stopping him, that would have at least proved the point. Like that would have given the point that
Yeah.
like the idea of like, oh, superheroes solve problems.
I guess,
instead
but
of-
I think it's also a
What they-
little bit unrealistic, because if they win every fight, then it's like, oh, well, then they're not as genuine
I mean,
because
I
they're
don't,
just
I don't
invincible.
think that's a good point.
Yeah.
no, I mean, like I
Yeah.
don't think that's necessarily true. It's like a cartoon world. Like I don't think
That's true,
And
but
also
like,
they
they
lost the
established
first
that
time.
they established that like the characters make mistakes. I mean, in the first movie, Mr. Incredible lies to his family and is like doing all this stuff because he wants to get back out there and help people. Like they show that they aren't perfect.
no, yeah, and
characters.
I don't, and like I think this movie also shows a lot of that too. And what I think they could have done is have him show up again, and like during the credits, it could have been showing them like stopping them. Like
That's
how
true.
like a lot of them.
I feel like if they did it in the credits, that'd be kind of lame.
Yeah, I
But
will say.
that's
No, I
also
mean-
me just being whatever. I'm being a bit of like a nitpicky asshole in many ways, and I don't like it. But it's just there are a lot of it just gripes me about this movie because I feel like there are things about this movie that's like it could have been really great, and there's like
Yeah,
it
no,
feel-
I see where you're coming from, but I don't think it was as necessary as I think you're putting it out to be, or like
Yeah.
it's as like obvious, you know.
Well, a part
Or-
of it does come from the fact that when this movie initially released, it was getting critical acclaim. People were like really loving this movie. They were like, "This is awesome! It's better than the first movie."
I don't think people
And
were saying. People were saying it was
People,
better.
people were saying. Like,
I don't know about
I
that.
was looking online. I was talking to people. They were like, "It's better than the first movie," and possibly that was because they hadn't seen the first movie in a long time. But then I came around, and then I watched this on Netflix months later, months after the hype had died down, and then I was like, "This isn't better than the first movie."
Yeah, I mean, but like, I mean, I
And
I went
I'm
in.
just
I went in
explaining my
after,
thinking,
yeah,
and
no,
that's
I,
why
I
I'm,
get,
like,
I get what you mean.
griping.
Right.
I mean, and like a lot of the stuff I listened to was like people saying like, yeah, it's really good, but it's not better than the first one. And I feel like a lot of the people who were saying, oh, it's better than the first one, it's like part of that. When a movie's really hyped and you see it, you get really excited about it, especially
Yeah.
when you see it in the theater. Like,
Yeah.
like the Phantom
Especially,
Menace.
if it's like a
expected-
sequel,
Yeah.
people usually
Honestly-
it's a pre-existing fan base.
I
so.
expected more people to be upset with this movie than they were happy. Actually, not that like, just sort of because a lot of people, when creating their expectations for this movie, a lot of what I think a lot of people were thinking when they were like Incredibles 2 is they were thinking like a jump maybe 5-10 years in the future.
Oh, they didn't think it was gonna start right where the last one left off.
Like they had expectations in their minds of seeing Violet and Dash and Jack already like at least like older, like teenagers.
I don't think,
and I've heard like a lot of people like talking about how they really wanted to see that, and like that's what they were having in their heads, and then they were a lot of people, and then it was something like, oh, this is starting directly after the first movie, and I expected a lot more people to be just disappointed and being like, this isn't what I wanted.
I think that would be the case, but the audience of this movie is a lot of like families, and it's not like a Star Wars where it's a lot of people who have like very like ingrained and it has like a super deep lore.
Yeah.
And like there are very like specific things that they need serviced.
Yeah, there's
It's
sort of
like-
a different fan relationship. There aren't as many
Yeah.
prerequisites that need to be filled.
It's just one story that was told, and there isn't like a massive lore behind it. It's just like, oh, it would be cool to have this, but it's not like Star Wars where it's like I need it to be this because it'll to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
treading into dangerous territory talking about that, but
Talking about Star Wars or like
yeah,
Or just how stupid that a lot of the fans are.
yeah.
And saying
I
how
mean, I
stupid
think-
they are because they're stupid.
I think to be fair, I
Just
think
enjoy it. It's a movie. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Okay, no,
You can't.
no, stop talking.
Your expectations
God.
are unreasonable.
Are you okay?
We can't
Hit
please
me in the
you all.
collarbone, dude.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That was his fault.
you're
Sure.
stupid.
And now we got like
And
I was just
think-
gonna say I think that's true of plenty of fan bases because people get really passionate, and that we should try to not single anybody out.
I just kind of expected like Pixar and like Disney fans to be a part of that sort of group of people who would be, because like the movie did come out like a long time ago, like enough time for the people who had initially seen it to like grow up and be the kind of angry adults that would be like that.
I feel like just the tone of this is a lot more lighthearted, and it just
Yeah.
like, it's like a cartoon and is more.
It's not really a fair
hyper-realistic.
comparison.
I don't know. It there's less. I feel like to hype up and imagine in your mind, and I feel like it's not as dissatisfying to have that not come true.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
At least in a general sense.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some people who were really disappointed with this movie, but
Yeah.
Right.
for the most part, I think
And
people were all right
I
with
think,
it.
Like parents and like kids who were going in would just be like, are like less of those super nerd people who would
Yeah.
get upset with it.
Right.
Because it's not really like your average superhero movie of today,
Yeah.
where it's like a spanning franchise. It's got 2 movies, and I think they're pretty good overall, but it doesn't have that same kind of cult following.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're kind of going in circles at this point. I think
We
you
should
should
probably
say
start wrapping
final,
things up.
Final thoughts, and
Yeah.
I think we all agree that we all like the movie at least.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should give it a watch if you enjoyed the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely worth watching if you enjoyed the first one.
And yeah, it's a good time.
Oh, Edna is really fun. I just.
Oh,
wanted to
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
Oh,
and-
yeah, we
and-
didn't even talk about the best character.
Yeah, that was it's like I was genuinely
Edna
smiling
mode.
and laughing throughout like a lot of this movie just because it's very charming, and even the parts that I didn't like as much, it didn't bother me because it was a fun ride.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, bye. See you in hell. I hate all of you.
Movies and stuff. Eating them up. Just 3 dudes. And something. We have a podcast. Please listen to it. This podcast. Another podcast. Aw, man. Couldn't have ended it on a nice note for once.
All right. All right. I think that's good.
It's either us like hating our fans or it's us like killing somebody.